Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I am Mr. Zulu, and I am interviewing Mr. Tom today. How you doing, sir?
I'm just Tom. No, I'm good. It's a nice day here in North Carolina.
North Carolina is always a great part of the United States, except for the humidity. I'm not a fan of that anymore. But anyway, what year did you join the United States Army?
I joined in 2004.
Oh, that's just a few years ago.
It was a little while ago. Didn't feel that. Part of it seems a long time ago. Part of it not so much. But I was a liberal kid from Seattle that had very strong feelings about the war that had just started and against it. And I had a high school counselor ask me just kind of a pointed question. If you feel so strongly about these things, why don't you go see it before you make your opinions? And me being a young, prideful man, I said, hey, maybe I will. So I called up the Marine recruiter and said, hey, I want to deploy. I want to go. He got real excited, and I drove up to the Linwood Mall up there in Seattle and parked, and then started to have second thoughts. And oddly enough, the Marine recruiter came out of his office in his dress uniform, and I was sitting there staring at him, trying to talk myself off the ledge. And I saw the red stripe down his leg, and me being a young kid, I had no idea what the hell that meant. But I distinctly remember standing there saying, that guy looks like a clown. And probably just a way of justifying not going and talking to him. But actually, the Marine recruiter had walked out in his greens and his beret, and I thought that looked way cooler, and I ended up going that route.
You mean the Army recruiter?
Yeah, the Army recruiter, Staff Sergeant Clark. He was a stenographer, or he drew maps or something. But
no wonder the LTs always got lost.
Yeah, exactly. But no, that's kind of the funny start to my adventure.
In 2004, that means you went to Fort Knox for base or for OSUT.
Yep. Actually that happened around the latter part of 2003, and then early in 2000. I went to Knox in early 2004, and we were doing the 18-week. I don't know what it is now. We were doing 18-week OSUT. And so it was all the basic training stuff, plus tank stuff, and then plus like mount training and like dismounted infantry stuff.
Yeah, because they were seeing how it was in Iraq at the time.
Yeah, and the ironic part about it is obviously none of the drill sergeants had ever been deployed. You know, they were all slick sleeved, so they were teaching us how to go to Iraq and fight infantry stuff, and they were 90s tankers. So that was looking back on it, that's kind of funny.
I've met some of those 90s tankers, and some of those guys are pretty sharp, and some of them, not so much.
You know, they're all very stuck in their ways. But yeah, at that time, they were very good tankers, probably not very good infantrymen.
But hey, nothing wrong with that. And so that means you were on for basic. Did you see the M1A1 and the M1A2, or just the M1A1?
No, it was just M1A1s. I think it was around 2007. We got M1A1 Ames.
Okay. So now we're on to your first unit. What was your first unit, and where were you at?
My first unit was 135 Armor out of 2nd Brigade, 2nd Brigade Combat Team in 1st Armor Division in Baumholder, Germany. Little town kind of in West Germany, west of Frankfurt.
So was it still an Annihilator back then, or if you were an Alpha company, or was it still Blackjack?
I was an Alpha company, and we were aggressor.
So things change over time. Okay.
Yep. 3rd platoon aggressor. And that's why I was shocked, because they changed so much stuff when they moved everything to Bliss. But I was happy later on to go back to 135. It just turned out to be one of my worst assignments. No.
We'll get there. And
yeah, I know.
So I take it you probably got to Bombhole or 135 in, what was it, late 04?
It was, I got there, yeah, I think it was about June. It would have been in the spring, and everybody was out at Hohensfeld getting ready for like the pre-deployment CMTC. So like the NTC of Europe. And we went out there, and I remember walking into the tent, and my first sergeant Wheeler was there, and he said, "Hey, congratulations, you're an E2 now," and he put mosquito wings on my chest. And I was shocked, because I wasn't expecting that. And then he had one of the training room guys walk me down to the tents where my platoon was at, and I ran into my platoon sergeant, Sergeant First Class Tua, who was a Samoan guy, and he was probably nothing short of 6'8", probably a good 260 pounds. He's just a massive man, very intimidating. And yeah, he took me into the tents, and I met the platoon. Then they put me right on guard or tower duty. New guy. It was like a 6-hour shift standing at a perimeter. I had no idea what I was doing. Yeah, I won't forget that one. And then not a lot happened in that tower. So that was kind of I remember standing there and being like, what did I get into? This is not.
This is not fun.
No, this is straight up not a good time. But yeah, not too long after that, we ended up, we deployed, and we went to Kuwait and sat around for like a month, whether it was like a reserve force, or we sat around for a little while as a reserve force, because the government was telling everybody that the war was going well and we were winning and it was going to be over soon. And Bush stood on the aircraft carrier and declared, victory. And we were worried we weren't going to end up going north. And this was just a little. This was a while after Fallujah, the second Battle of Fallujah, where all the AQ guys fled, and went west into Anbar and started regrouping in Ramadi. And so, yeah, the Ready First Combat Team ended up getting deployed to Ramadi, and we went with them, and we broke up with Second Mu from the Marines into kind of task orgs. And so our task org was, we had two Marine infantry platoons, Army infantry platoon, and a tank platoon. And the Marines had labs. The infantry guys had Brads, and then we had a platoon of tanks. And that was kind of our task force, with a Marine first sergeant and a Army. No, it was Captain Seal was a Marine. So the commander was a Marine, and we had a Army first sergeant. It was a weird task force. And we ended up going to North Ramadi and blocking roads along route, was it Mobile? Route Mobile, on the north side of the Euphrates, because the dudes were running IEDs and guns between Fallujah and Ramadi through a little like farm roads in the north. And so we were fighting up there for pretty much the whole year, and setting up OPs every 500. It was like 500 meters along roads, and sitting there and doing 48, 36-hour shifts out in the sun.
Jesus. And that sun is no joke. I learned that the fucking hard way.
Yeah.
That sun is racist to everybody.
Yeah. It'll turn you into Red Lobster in no time.
Even if you're a black guy, I've seen it.
Oh, yeah. You sit there and melt Sour Patch Kids on the hatch of the loaders the loaders hatch and just sit there and watch them melt. It was a good time. No, I think the thing that was the greatest rush out of that first deployment was we'd go out and set up these OPs all over the place and just kind of watch people and do reporting and whatnot. And for the most part, after like the first 2 months we were there, they stopped really trying to attack the tanks other than IEDs. They were more interested in the Marine infantry guys that go out and walk, and they do like 6 mile patrols a day. It was just exhausting stuff watching them go out. But they would go out and the kids would follow them, and they would usually get like 3 miles out in whatever patrol sector they're at, and then kind of hunker down for an hour or two and drink water and do some reporting or site exploitation or whatever they're going to do. But usually it was when they were on their way back and they were already hot and drained and carrying all their stuff around that they would get attacked. And then they would call whichever OP was closest, and we were usually the farthest out on OP Axe, and we'd go up and bail them out and throw water and ammo, and the enemy would break contact when the tanks rolled up. But it was, I don't want to say it was a good time, but it was a hell of a rush some days.
Okay. I do remember one story that you mentioned. This is what I remember you telling us almost 10 years ago now, about the rock in the middle of the road.
Yeah, the rock haunts me, man.
Was that on your
run it again?
was that your first deployment?
That was my first deployment. Yeah.
Oh,
That was actually the route clearance mission when we were pushing out to get to OP Axe before we had created that OP. And I'll tell it back since you brought it up. But it was a night mission. It was fairly early in the deployment, and it was along. Man, I can't remember the names anymore. It was along one of the primary rural roads that ran past our cop, and we were with the Dagger team, which at that time was like civilian EOD. And they would have a buffalo and a couple Wolverines, and you would have a tank behind the lead Wolverine, and then a tank in the back, and then we would go on route clearance missions in the middle of the night. And let's see, I was driving, and I was looking through the fishbowl, and it was we knew that there was like a AQI strong point or like a training camp or safe house or something. I don't remember what it was, but there was like definitely a suspect building like within the block that we were, and we were trying to be quiet and clear this road so that we could set this OP up and be able to run logistics. But I remember I had a Wolverine in front of me, and then I was in my tank 3-3 driving, and then I don't even know who was behind us, but the Wolverine had got a hit on the road for an IED or a wire or something, and they were interrogating it. And when they lifted it up, there was like 105s in it, or 15. It was smaller. It was like 105s in it, and they were gonna set it up to blow it in place. And so they called my TC. They called Sergeant Major Dilling now, and said, "Hey, you guys need to pull up around the road, or like pull up so that we can blow this in place because we were too close." And so we were moving up, and I pushed past the Wolverine, and I was just kind of going like as low as the throttle would go, like trackpad to trackpad, which is kind of like almost like riding on a horse a little bit. The tank kind of bumps and bounces and creaks, and the radio was quiet. It was like 2 a.m. It was dark. There was almost no illumination, and I was just coming around this little curve, and right in the middle of the road, there was a stone about the size of a softball just laying in the middle of the road. And as soon as it came into my view, I was fixated on it because I thought it was so bizarre. This rock in the middle of the road. And I just remember staring at the rock and feeling the bump of the tank as we would kind of creak forward. and I stopped because I didn't want to get close to it. It was bothering me really bad. And I remember Sergeant Dilling was talking on the radio. I was trying to get his attention to be like, hey, there's a rock. And Sergeant Clark, who was my gunner, was like, hey, yes, there's lots of rocks. You're in Iraq. Like, shut up, Keen. Yeah. So I was like, okay, whatever. And I remember Sergeant Dilling being like, hey, you need to move up further. They want us to move up further. And I really, really, really didn't want to. But I creeped up until I could just see the top of the rock over the front slope on the DVE. And I stopped right there. And I remember the Wolverine crew coming back over the radio after because they blew it. Coming back over the radio, and they were looking at it with a bot, and they said, hey, there's another line going under the road, like towards 3-3. And like my heart sunk. I was like, I knew it. And I sat there angry, like really, really mad at Sergeant Dilling and Sergeant Clark. And so they had us back up, and the Buffalo went up there and lifted it up. And sure enough, it was, I think it was 3 105s and 2 155s and a dual pressure plate for a track, right there under the rock. And the EOD guys, the Dagger team, even came over and said it was really peculiar that they had marked it with a rock. Either it was a kid had gone by there and placed it, but that was really peculiar because they don't usually see that. So I don't know what the backstory there was, but staring at that rock and feeling the bump of the tank is one of the things that keeps me up at night, because I knew it, man.
But you're here to tell the story.
I'm here to tell a story and tell it occasionally. I imagine one day I'll forget that one, but yeah, there was a lot of like really peculiar, just odd times like that. Maybe not that stark, that's the kind of one that would turn somebody religious, but I don't know. And it wasn't all blood and guts. A lot of it was just like really weird stuff that shouldn't have happened.
It sounds like the Army to me.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Amazing how many things change and how things stay the same. All right, so for your first deployment, was there anything else that happened that sticks out, or just anything else?
Oh yeah, I mean, you could get me going for days. I think the next one, probably the most exciting, scary day we had, is so I'm going to give a little backstory here, but we had the Marines had a sniper team that they would post on top of our building. So we had taken over this guy's house early on in the thing, and we didn't like go in and kick him out or anything exactly, but we had actually rolled the whole convoy up, and this guy had this huge house, like a mansion. And I remember Captain Sy saying, "That's the one I want." And so we had rolled up into the courtyard of this house, and they gave him a bunch of money, and he grabbed his family and they left. And so more or less we kind of bailed him out, and he left. Anyways, we set up this building as our cot, and we set up a talk, and each of the platoons had their own room. Like, yeah, we had a room that we had put bunks and sleeping bags and stuff in that we lived in. But the Marines had a sniper team that they posted on top of the building, and they would do kind of, like scouting overwatch over the perimeter and like the area 24 hours a day. And some kids had come out. I say they're kids. I think they were like 14 or 15 with a bolt action Car 98 from like World War II, and set up in a building across the street from our cop, and took a shot at the Marine snipers like early in the morning. And the Marine snipers shot back, and think they hit him. But when the platoon went over there and raided the building, they didn't find anybody, but they found the shell casing, and they found bloody drag marks. So it was like a day or two later, the local sheik and his whole entourage showed up at the cop with white flags and wanted to talk to Captain Sai. Um, Apparently, the kid had been. They claimed that the Marines just shot this teenager, and he went down to the hospital in Ramadi and bled out and died in the hospital. And they wanted retribution. They wanted Captain Sai to turn over the Marine snipers for shooting some kid. And it was like obvious we had the shell casing. Like there was no way around it. Like it was obvious they didn't just shoot some kid. But because Captain Sai wouldn't give it to him, he said, "Hey, we're going to overrun and we're going to kill everybody in the compound. Like this is, you guys are no longer welcome here," type stuff. And I remember Captain Sai, like, because they were in the kitchen, like the kitchen dining room of this big house we were in, with the doors closed. And I remember the door swinging open and the sheik and like his entourage walking out, and Captain Sai was yelling at him, saying, "You're not going to come here and threaten my Marines. Like, who the hell do you think you are? We should arrest all of you guys and stuff." And they were all angry, and like the Terp was yelling, and it was like this big commotion inside the house. And they all left, and so they did like a platoon sergeant meeting. They're like, "Hey, stuff's going to get rough." So we knew at some point there was going to be an attack coming. We didn't really know what it was going to, how it was going to pan out or what they were going to do. And it's a weird thought that I had never considered when you lay down to go to sleep at night and be like, "Hey, there's people in the house next to us or down the street or that are constantly plotting to like kill all of us." Like it was a weird thought that it's like the people right over there and you can't really do anything about it. But for me, it's like yeah, sorry. Um, I lost my train of thought, but it's a weird notion. But anyhow, to kind of move on with the story, it was probably 2 or 3 months later. One of the Lav OPs came under attack, like a um, ambush with RPGs and RPKs and stuff out, and kind of it was probably about a mile away from the cop, and uh, we were out on like the balcony watching like tracers and like the booms and like the gunfight and stuff, and everybody was in like their PT shorts and IOTV. At that time it was IBAs, but uh, an RPG was actually shot out of the grass into the side of the building, like while we were out on the balcony. Like it just came out of nowhere. Probably at like 100 meters, like out in this real tall grass behind the house. Uh, and so at that point, everybody was getting up and getting dressed and like yelling and whatnot. And we had air weapons team actually in the area that was hovering over cop Falcons down in the inner city, and they had actually panned over and like were looking, and they said, "Hey, you have at least three trucks full of dismounts headed down Route Goals and Route Mobile towards Warrior Strong Point, which is where we were at." And that came over the radio, and so they're saying, "Hey, everybody go out and like get spun up, like get everything going." It was a real a lot of commotion. Actually, one of the trucks had pulled up in front of the wire at the gate, and dudes started jumping out and shooting. And so all the Marines and the snipers and the guys up on the roof, there was just machine gun fire going everywhere and shells coming down the stairs and dropping off the banisters, and it was insane. And we were actually at the front door because we had to run out and jump in the tank to get it started. But there was the dismounts and the guys from the truck out in front. of the building that were all shooting back towards us, and we had to run towards them to get to the tanks. And actually, we did. We ran out there. I was in flip flops and PT shorts and my CVC and IBA, and I belly flopped onto the front slope and did like a somersault and rolled into the driver's hatch and closed it up and started the tank. It was an M1A1.
And
I think Sergeant Boat and Clark when jumped in the top. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I had just a little bit of experience with A1s, and man, them things fire right up every time.
Oh yeah, A1 is solid. I think it's good because so much of it was designed and implemented as analog systems that you don't have all the digital stuff getting in the way.
Yeah.
So I mean, as long as your hydraulics and your voltages were good, you didn't get a lot of ghosts.
Yes, but anyway, continue on with the story.
Yeah, I started it up, and actually, the top told us, hey, we need you to go out and support OP Goal, where the LAV platoon was the first guys that got engaged were buckled down, because apparently they had 2 pickup trucks headed towards them, and they were actually in danger of being overrun. One of the RPGs had actually blown out all 4 of the tires on the right side of it, and so they were immobile. And so we pulled out of the strong point through the gunfight. Like, we drove through it between our guys shooting and the guys at the front gate, drove right past them over the wall and just beelined it north towards OP Goal. And I remember hearing the gunfire on both sides of the tank. Like, the guys with the saws on the roof were probably hitting us, and the guys on the other side of the fence, and it felt like being in a aluminum trash can getting hit by, somebody pouring marbles on it. But just being able to go through a wall and just beeline it was pretty wild. And I remember that was actually the first time I had heard Sergeant Clark tell Sergeant Bodie, who was one of the other gunners, my platoon sergeant's gunner. They had both got in our tank. He told Bodie to load heat service round, and I was just like, I had it all the way open going down these little farm road towards Goal. But that was the first time that tour I had heard him say load a main gun round. And sure enough, like, we had pulled up, and as soon as we pulled up, Clark said, I see one of the pickups, the technicals, like, coming down the road. And he fired at it. I think he short lined it. It was at about 600 meters. He had short lined the heat round. And I remember watching, because I was driving, watching through the periscopes when we fired, and I cleared the dust. I could see the tracer going northward, skyward, just like at Tank Gunnery, just short of it on the left side of the road. And the truck had actually turned, and they were running. They were coming towards us when he had fired it, and they turned left, and they were going like perpendicular to us. And they loaded another heat round. And I remember when it was like shooting at like 1:00. I could see the gun tube, and he shot it, and the round actually hit the berm just short of center of mass and skipped left and hit the back of the truck. And it didn't detonate, but it flipped the truck over. And I remember seeing all the guys like falling out of the back, as the truck kind of flipped. Yeah, it might have detonated. I didn't see a flash, and it wasn't that big there was no boom. There was a lot of dust. But I remember seeing that when it hit the back of the truck. And then actually my platoon sergeant's tank had come up with my lieutenant and my platoon sergeant in the same tank. And they were shooting coax at the guys, but it all settled down. Apparently that was their big attempt to try and overrun. The thing that was really weird about it is, after everything was said and done, they did TSC on everything. In that grass back behind the building, They had actually dug holes and put 55-gallon drums of ammunition and RPGs and mortars and RKGs, like the stick grenades that the Nazis would use, like
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. They had caches back there in the grass, like 100 meters from the cop, that they had been stockpiling for like weeks or months or whatever. But they had just been low crawling through the grass and putting stuff back there. I found that really weird because it's like, we're all sleeping here and living here, and there's dudes just creeping around out in the grass. It makes you feel like Vietnam style, like Charlie's out there,
I don't know where, but he's out there.
Yeah. They were plotting. They weren't very good at what they were doing, but they were trying.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, that's. So is that pretty much it for your first deployment then?
Now, you want more?
Well, I mean, this is your show. We can. I'll leave it to you if you want to do this in several installments to where we talk about yours, because I do like to talk about tanks because tanks are fun. But then I also like the other part of this is to preserve your story when you were in the Army.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose I'll run through the story. If you want more stories later, I was actually thinking about writing some of them down because it becomes hard to remember a lot.
I understand
stuff that happened.
Well, in that case, let's just go up. Let's go through your first deployment, and then we'll talk tanks for a little while.
Sure. Let's see. The one, I think the day that scared me the most was not a violent day, but I would have when we would be out on the OPs sleeping on top of the tank, or like resting. Usually we were always 3-man crews, and so you'd have 2 up, 1 down, for across about 48 hours. So we usually did it in like 6 or 12-hour shifts, depending on the temperatures. If it's really hot, you can only really take 6 hours on top of the tank out in the sun. But I remember one particular night, I had woke up, and I was always worried because at the time there was lots of news and like stories and SIRs about AQI low crawling out and putting IEDs under vehicles on OPs. I think one of the Bradleys had it happen to them. Somebody had crawled out in the middle of the night and put an IED under one of their Bradleys on the OPs, because it was just us out there. That when I say OP, it was really just kind of a hasty defense out in the middle of the city. But this one particular night, I had woke up and everybody on the tank was asleep. Like all 3 of us were asleep just out in the city.
Oh.
And it scared the piss out of me because it was actually my downtime. And they were both asleep on top, and I was asleep in the driver's hole. And I freaked out, and I got my Surefire, and did like a 360, like a 5 and 25, like walked around the top of the tank and like seeing if anything was I don't know. I was scared shitless, but that haunted me. So every time after that, when I would wake up in the middle of the night, or they would wake me up, or even when I was on shift, I would just constantly be walking in and around. And this one night, I did it. I was actually on shift, and I was just sitting there, and I got my Surefire out, and I started walking around the tank, and there was a guy, like an old guy, probably in his 60s or 70s, standing behind the tank, like in a man dress, just standing there. Like he didn't have anything in his hands. He was just like standing behind the tank, not saying anything, not moving, just standing there like some kind of horror movie. And I had like an emotional event. Like I started screaming at him, and hopped off the back and went up and was just furious at this guy. I was about to beat the crap out of him. But yeah, that one's always bothered me. But I don't know what the hell he was doing. He just left. He just walked away. But when people are able to get that close, it's
That's
not
scary.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Now let's see.
So just for people listening in and understanding, I just want to make sure we have the dates right. So early 2004, you went to Knox. Mid 2004, you were in Baumholder, Germany, Alpha Company 135. And when did you go to Kuwait?
It was around Thanksgiving, I believe.
Okay, so November of 04?
Yeah.
That's a really short train up for you. But it's how it is sometimes. It's just the Army. What's the next big one you have for your first rotation or first deployment in Iraq?
I will never forget the day that actually the day that my platoon sergeant's tank got RPG'd. Not a story I'm particularly proud of because it's kind of my failure, but I'll tell it anyways. But we were actually going down that same road where the rock story came from. But we were in the lead tank and we were moving down that. I don't remember why we were going down that road, but we had a full platoon. We had the two tanks in the lead, and we were running 3 and 4, and then we had 2 Bradleys in the back. So all 4 of us, and we were going down the road, and we were going real slow. But we cleared a palm grove, and I was in the loader's hatch. I wasn't driving this time, but I was in the loader's hatch, and I remember when we passed by this palm grove, and it was a long palm grove that ran along an irrigation ditch. So you have an irrigation ditch that ran perpendicular off the left side of the tank, or off the road, and then you had like palm trees and almost like jungle, like tropical plants and stuff, and there was real thick vegetation that ran along this irrigation ditch. And when we passed the tree line, there was 2 guys standing there in white man dresses, and they were probably like 15 meters off the road, so they were right there, kind of standing in the grove. I thought that was weird, and I was watching them as we were kind of bouncing down the road. And as soon as the Sarantua's tank cleared the palm grove, one of the guys pulled an RPG up, like he had it like between his legs or like under his man dress or whatever, and had shot the number 1 skirt. And it was like the dual tandem one. It had like the 2 footballs, like attached to a stick. It wasn't like a single. Um, and I watched it in like slow mo in my head. Like he had brought it up, and I was sitting there staring at him holding it. And the other guy was standing behind him, and I was just staring at him. Like I had both my hands on the Lotus 240 that was still pointed not towards them, but I was just staring at him in like disbelief. Like I couldn't comprehend it in my head. Maybe I wasn't trained that well at that time. But yeah, he had shot it, and it blew up in like a huge dust cloud. I just remember all the dust. And of course, like the radio exploded, everyone yelling, like, where'd that come from? Like, anybody see him or whatnot? And I was sitting there still staring at him. The guy with the RPG was still standing there holding it, like in disbelief. And the other guy was pulling on his collar, like trying to pull him, like, we got to go, bro. And I was still just staring at him. Like, I didn't say anything. I was just like stunned and watching him kind of like bicker about like getting away. And I was like, hey, Sergeant Dilling, they're right there. And like he kind of looked over his left shoulder over the TC's hatch and seen him. He's like, shoot him. Like, what are you doing? And started yelling. The guys booked it down through the tree, the brush along the irrigation ditch and whatnot. And Sergeant Dilling was real sore at me about that one. But hey, Sergeant to his tank, like that number 1 skirt, just had a big pock mark on it. Like it didn't. Didn't do anything other than damage the cart paint.
I guess you got
straight
lucky.
Shrugged that off. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe it was the angle, but I mean, it wouldn't have, it might have caused some damage in another instance, but for whatever reason that day, he might as well shot a BB gun at that tank.
The M1's a tough nut to crack.
Yeah. I think that guy learned something that day.
And he both sides got lucky in their respective ways.
Yeah. That I always reflected back on that moment later in my career when I was looking at trying to train people and not have other people be in that situation, because it could have gone very different. And I was real embarrassed, and I couldn't quite explain why that happened, other than it was just such a weird thing when it does,
Yeah, that I can understand. For everyone listening, the gentleman that's being interviewed today, Mr. Tom, he was my platoon sergeant at one point while he was a platoon sergeant. And
once upon a time.
Yes, once upon a time back in 2016, 2017 for a few months. And I can definitely say that you were the best one that I ever had. And
I appreciate that, man.
And probably the best tank commander that I personally came across. Because then we have guys throughout history, but those guys aren't around anymore.
Yeah, I greatly appreciate that, man. Later on, you look back and so many things you wish you could have done differently, and I don't know, different place, different time, things would have been better. But
oh yeah,
that experience was a mess. So yeah, I do appreciate that. It's very humbling. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So for the rest of your first deployment, was there anything else that you wanted to add? Because if something's too painful for you, I can understand if you don't want to tell the story.
Nah, I'm not dipping into that stuff, but
I understand. You're not the first one to say that, and I know you won't be the last. So if that concludes your first... Well, go ahead.
No, there was a quote. I don't remember where it came from. Probably Google it and find it. But off the top of my head, it was like war is sheer boredom punctuated by moments of stark terror. And I think that absolutely summed up my experience. Most days there was just nothing. It was baking in the sun, or it was working out on the Bowflex, or I got one. I got to finish my story, man. When I was talking about that same area where the guys had shot the RPG, there was this little fruit market there. They were like basically mud connexes that were held up with sticks and like mud walls and stuff. And there was always like dozens of people there, kids and women and men, and they would sell fruit, and it would just be super crowded on this little road, kind of right across the street from that palm grove. And this one day we were sitting there watching like the market or whatever, and the people in the area had been super angry because they used that low road with the palm grove and the IEDs and stuff to commute to and from work. And there was a lot of agriculture in that area. And so when we set it up, all these OPs, like OP Acts, we blocked that road so they couldn't use it anymore, and everybody lost their jobs. So there was a lot of, we weren't making people happier with us after like the teenager incident and then people losing their jobs and stuff. So pretty much everybody was mad as hell at us. But this little fruit market, we were sitting kind of right in that area watching it one day on tanks. And the cops started to get mortared. Like somebody was shooting mortars, and it was pretty close. We could hear it pretty clearly from like the backside of the fruit market. And I don't know. Somebody called out that said they saw the spotters, and it was a couple more teenagers, or like young guys, and they ran into the fruit market, and they gave like a description of them. I think one had like a blue jacket on and or something, and I remember looking back because Sarntua stood up out of his TC's hatch, and the guy was so big, like standing on the floor of the tank, he would still be at name tape defilade. But I remember him climbing up and jumping up and throwing his CVC off, and pulling the loader's 240 off, and then jumping off the tank and walking into the market, holding the 240 by like the gun to like the barrel. Like he wasn't going to shoot anybody. He was carrying it like a club. Like he was.
Damn.
Everybody was yelling at him to get back on, but he just straight up jumped off and like barged into this market carrying a 240. And you want to talk about, some comic book stuff. It was unreal. But he straight up walked in there. I mean, and you think of all these Arabic dudes are, 5'5", 5'7", like 115 pounds. And here comes this 280-pound Samoan dude that's 6'8", carrying a 240, just powerhousing through the market. He ended up straight up just grabbing both of these guys and then dragging them out. Like he just walked in and just said, "Come here." He drugged both these dudes out of the market with everybody staring at him, like not a shot fired, and then leaned them both against his front slope and told the infantry, Bodie, call the infantry guys to come up and get him. But I won't forget that one either. That day, that guy became a legend to me. The balls on this guy,
There's a reason why he was 6'8".
Yeah, I know. And he knew he could do it. Sarntua was an odd guy.
Well, I think there's a lot of odd people in the Army.
Yeah. There's something to be said about that. I think anybody that puts up with that stuff is a little off their rocker.
I can't be a tanker unless you got at least a few screws loose.
Yeah. As long as it has a little bit of turbo shaft on it, it'll all buff out.
Yeah. So is that the last story you want to share for your first deployment?
Yeah, that's about it for that one.
So, when did you guys conclude your last deployment? Would that be November of 2005?
Yeah, that sounds about right. I know we were worried about getting extended, but there wasn't a lot of progress being made in some weird politics in Anbar province because the surge had just started. And anyways, neither here nor there, but we ended up going back pretty much on time. I think it was 12 months and some other weeks, but it was pretty close, and we went back. We went back in waves. We didn't all go back together, but me and Sarntua were on the same flight. I think everybody else was a little bit behind us. We went back to Germany, got our barracks rooms, and then there was a crap ton of new soldiers back in Germany that were all wanting to deploy, but they didn't get the chance to go. And so it was just like an ocean of privates out of basic, and then all the turds that were on rear D, and everybody wants to spoil you and whatnot. And then pretty soon they were like, hey, we got 12 months, we're going back.
Oh.
And so then you're getting, everybody's PCSing, and then you're getting all these NCOs and new soldiers in, none of which is deployed. And so I was a specialist, at one point in my platoon, I was a specialist, and I was the only one in my entire platoon that had ever deployed. The platoon leader, platoon sergeant, tank commanders, gunners, nobody had ever deployed. Just me. And it was just like the stuff that people would be concerned about or talk about was just like, was appalling to me, because you people are worried about the wrong shit. Like, it, you can't have stuff broken when you're out in sector. Like, your life, all of our lives depend on it. You can't just like ignore shit or say, hey, we're gonna fix it on Monday, or hey, it's good enough. Like, that does not fly. Like, when your life is absolutely dependent on it, you need to treat it like you're a helicopter pilot, because while a little bit different, it needs to work when you need it to work. And I felt like I was the only one with that philosophy, and it didn't seem to phase anybody else, and I thought I was crazy. And you know what, through my whole career that never ended. So
Yeah, I experienced that. I think the first time I experienced that was when I came to your platoon. But I really started to experience it when I finally became a gunner after I picked up sergeant, and I started really drilling into the mechanics that my tank will run, and they kind of hated me. But that's a story for another time. So
I get it. Doing your job makes you the enemy.
Well, I would throw turret screens at people.
Well, it's often warranted. You don't throw turret screens at people doing their job. So
I remember when First Brigade, First Armored, they were qualifying off our tanks to go to Korea. And this is, what was it, January of 22. Right before Talamantes and I went out to shoot our gunnery. But I went out to Talamantes went out to our tank. And he found like a turret screen not installed and dirt and trash just all over the inside of the turret. And he told the crew, hey, my gunner is going to be mad when he sees his tank. You might want to square it away. And it was some LT and who was a TC and some specialist. And the LT and the specialist just blew him off. And so my TC Telemontes tells me about this. And I walk all the way down there and I go, hey, so I hop on a tank before I talk to anybody, and I am pissed, but I don't look pissed. And I ask about, hey, as Beachmaster, hey, who's the crew that signed for Bravo 1-2? So they come out to the crew. The specialists and the Joes are actually cleaning out the tank. I get the turret screen installed, and the LT comes storming up to the tank, fit to be tied. Just pissed. Why are you having my guys cleaning my tank? I was like, sir, you signed for this tank. You signed for my tank. So you going to take care of it. I don't care who you are.
Yep. You give it back better than you got it.
Or at least try to, because I know, or we both know tanks just love to just break.
No, they do, but I mean, you have a certain respect, and I wish people had. I say people. I wish tankers had better respect for each other, because tankers always seem to be
not my
competition
problem
with each other. Not my problem. Or I mean,
yeah.
You take two different battalions out to gunnery and see how they treat each other. It's, I don't get the animosity, because the rest of the Army seems to not like tankers too much, at least the ones that haven't needed them, which is the majority.
Yeah. I think that animosity comes...
We all need to blame scouts, because they were the real turds.
Oh, so. Yeah. I think the animosity comes from, like, between tankers. It's just, well, we want to outshoot each other, but we're willing to cheat and break each other's stuff to outshoot each other.
This is true. And I wish it wasn't that way, actually. I wish it was actually... I like I've always liked the aggressiveness, and the desire to win at any cost. I think that's always good. I had always wished to be a part of an organization where it was more of a team effort on things, where everybody wasn't trying to undermine and sabotage each other. Whereas, we all work for the mutual good and improvement and actually try and be an elite. I don't know. I never really I always felt like everybody was against each other, and you were never really going to have a great team while everybody felt that way. And part of that comes from the command climate, but I'll get off my soapbox about that. So let's see, man. We got word that 3rd Brigade in Germany was where were they at? I don't remember where they were. They were Bandit 137 was there. Freeburg, yeah, whatever it was, getting shut down. It was about a year after we had got back from Iraq, and so they were going to move everything to 1st Armored Division, Fort Riley, or at least 3rd Brigade. And so I got orders to PCS to Fort Riley to stand up 3rd Brigade, 1st Armored Division there. And so I PCS'd out of Germany and went to 141 Infantry at Fort Riley in 3rd Brigade, 1st Armored Division. And we were there. We had our battalion had 20 people in it for 6 months. Not even a platoon's worth of people. Until we finally got our colors and people started showing up. I got a chance to stand up a new unit, and we got that was the first time I had seen a M1A1 Ames. We got those, and we got net training on them.
So that before that means you're on just M1A1. Was it heavy commons?
Yeah. I think one of our tanks had Tusk. At least part of it.
Yeah, but Tusk is just a kit.
Yeah. I had the Tusk stuff on it, but yeah, they were straight analog A1s.
Jealous that you got to use those.
Yeah, that is a great tank. Everything they did on the A2s would have been better. It just wasn't integrated right, man. If you still had the exact same systems and capabilities of the A1 in the A2, it would have been a good thing. The problem is they changed so many systems to support all the A2 stuff. But I mean, if you could, isolate the CITV, or even have analog inputs to the gunner's computer, things would have been so much better. Just because you have better redundancy and it's just dependable.
So that tank does exist.
Really?
It's the Taiwan tank. So the Taiwan tank it was based on the M1A1, the SA/FEP. Because I believe Marine Corps had 400 tanks or 200 tanks or something like that. Half of them went to Poland. The other half got turned into M1A2 Taiwan, or T for Taiwan. So instead of having the GTD and LOS for your gun turret drive and azimuth, I know the V2 stuff so much more now that I don't understand the A1 all that well. But I know on the A1 you have a GTD and an LOS, and they work separately for your hydraulics.
Yeah.
But on this tank, on the Taiwan tank, they were able to figure out how to combine them. So it still has the limitations of the A1 max effective range, but it has a dual axis head assembly of the A2, and it has a CITV, and it has a low pro Crows, which I fucking hate that piece of shit. Crows is trash.
Why?
Trying to keep Crows working is where it's hard.
Yeah, because you don't have all the tools you need.
I do, and they are garbage. I hate them with a passion.
Oh man. Well, if you need anything, reach out, man. I'm pretty good with them.
It's most of the time it's software problems and components.
It's always software problems.
It's a combination for the ones that we're dealing with. It's a combination of software and hardware problems to where the main components for the Crows, not the soft mount or the SSA, it's the MPU. It's the old version of the MPU, and of course, we can't get the modern version of the MPU because the unit keeps destroying or melting transmissions to where they're throwing their money away on that. So it's a weird combination.
Wow. That's too bad because that crow is pretty lethal, man.
Well, yeah.
You get it right. That's a nice thing to have. I always liked it because you could pretty much shoot somebody off the side of the tank.
Well, that's with the high profile. I only have experience with the low pro crows.
Oh, see, and I only have vice experience, so I only have the high profile ones. I never really saw the low profiles.
They'd be so glad. Oh my, I can't stand them.
Yeah, the last couple of years of my career, I was mostly working with RWS, off the JLTVs and
okay,
and strikers. So,
but anyway, okay, my bad. We went down the rabbit hole again.
I know.
All
I'm
right,
sorry.
it's fine. We're here to have fun.
Yeah.
So you
No,
so you guys got netted M1A1 Ames at Riley, and that was what early 06?
Yeah, yeah, that sounds about right. As a new unit, we got the tanks, and we got like fully staffed and stuff. I had a falling out with my commander and my first sergeant, and I was just in a really bad place. I think I was, I don't know, I think I was kind of mentally sick at that time. To put it lightly, I just wasn't. I didn't get in trouble or anything. I just wasn't having a good time with my chain of command, and so once I hit a year there, I went and I re-enlisted because I was just done. Is that I need to get out of here. So I PCS to Fort Lewis. It was still Fort Lewis at the time before it was JBLM. Because I was told that there was tanks there and they had 19 kilo slots. So I showed up at 123 Infantry, 2nd Brigade. Was it second or third? I don't remember what brigade it was, but it was 2nd ID. And I went to Bravo Company to an MGS platoon. So the way that the striker units were set up is we had 3 infantry platoons, red, blue, and green, or red, white, and blue, and then you had a green platoon, which was your MGS platoon of 9 guys, 19 kilos, and that platoon was supposed to have 3 mobile gun systems. However, when I got there, they didn't have MGS yet. So we just became green platoon. So basically an extended squad. But I was more in my element at that time. Just went through like team leader academy and did a bunch of dirt people stuff, and enjoyed it. Learned a lot of skills. Got to serve as a weapon squad leader a couple of times, which was a really good experience. But we ended up getting the Gen 3 mobile gun systems. We only got one. And so that was my first experience actually becoming a gunner, because they pinned corporal on me. And I went through net training on the MGS, and because I was a gunner and it was a brand new platform that nobody knew anything about. I had decided like it was going to be my thing. I'm going to learn everything about this that I can, and I became really good friends with my FSR, Mark Grabo. And I would carry the TMs around with me at home and on the weekends, and I had them in my bathrooms, and I would study it as much as I could because I really wanted to master that machine. I enjoyed it a lot. probably one of the few, if only, Army people that actually loved that that machine. When we went out and shot gunnery, we had shot a 998.
Damn.
It was fantastic because it has the M60 gun on it, the 105 rifle, and when we went to NTC before we deployed, they during the live fire they got us a bunch of service ammo, service heat rounds, and HEP. And the HEP round, to modern tankers probably don't know too much about HEP, but it's like what everybody believes a tank round should be, right? It's a 14-pound football of Penton that just goes boom. It doesn't bury into anything. It doesn't do any cool effects or anything. It's just literally a big explosive ball, shaped like a bullet. And it has a wax coating on it so it can grab the rifling. So it has no fins. It's not fin stabilized. It's spin stabilized.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you look through the gas sight, you actually have a curved bar on it to account for the spin off of your HEP rounds. Which to normal tankers, when they look through that oxide, they get really confused because why do you have a curvy line?
This
no,
line
so
is supposed to be straight.
The MGS rounds have some curve to them. At least the HEP does. But when we went to NTC, they got us a bunch of the service ammo, and they wanted to do a demonstration. They brought out the CG and all the people that wanted to see this new MGS thing in action, and they wanted to see us shoot it over the side to prove that it wouldn't flip over. Because there were so many rumors that the MGS would flip over when you shot it on the side. I think that might have happened to like the Gen 1s or Gen 2s. Way back with then, but this Gen 3 one, it wasn't supposed to flip over, and I didn't think it would. It was actually a wider body and a little bit lower on the suspension, but I had obviously never shot service ammo with it. But yeah, they brought all these people out, and they dropped a honeycomb of service ammo and said, hey, just shoot it up. And so I lazed out at one of the hulks out there and got flashing zeros. I mean, it was probably way outside of range, but I could lay short of it and get like 3970, 3980, something like that. It was pretty far out there, but you could see the bright glowing hulk, like wrecked vehicle targets out in the distance in the valley and the desert. So it was real clear. But I would laze, get flashing zeros, laze, get like 39 and some change, and then aim center of mass. And when you do that with a 105, like the gun, it really elevates. You're looking at probably a solid like 30-degree angle on the gun is just pointed up. But when you would fire, and it in the MGS, when you shoot it, it's not like the Abrams. It's like being in a car wreck. The whole thing shakes really good. But I would fire it, and you could see the tracer through the GPS go, and then center mass, boom, and explode out in the valley. Like you would just see the flash, but you could watch it go center mass at that distance. And I was like, man, I have never done that in an Abrams. Like just not even a good laze. You're just in the ballpark. And mind you, it was service ammo, but every one of them shots was like right on target. And I was like, God, I love this machine. And finally we ran out of heat, and so they loaded HEP. And I was like, HEP's only supposed to have a max effective range of 900 meters, at least where the ballistics are reliable. So, I mean, it's supposed to be a bunker busting round, like blow down a structure with it, kind of like the OR rounds. But same thing, I lazed it way out there, and I was like, well, and let's see how the HEP does. And the weird thing about lazing that far out with HEP is the gun's not aligned with the target. It's actually pointed off probably another 30 degrees. You're looking at like 30 degrees elevation, 30 degrees left or whatever of the target. So it's like the gun's not even pointed at it. It's weird. You look up out of the hatch and the gun's in a weird orientation, but probably not 30 degrees, but you get the idea. It's clearly not pointed at it. When you would fire it, the round went out. Same thing. Watch the tracer, and then boom, right next to it, like still within a kill shot. It wasn't center mass like the Heat was at that distance, but I was just like, man, this system works really, really well. The Striker's a piece of crap, but the gun and the fire control that they put on that system were really spot on. It made me love it even more. But I had good experiences with that MTS. I didn't have a tank, but that was damn well worked for me. Especially since I felt like I was the only one that really understood it. But we deployed there too. So we had deployed in late 2000, early 2008, outside of Baghdad.
Taji?
No, we were near Warhorse, in Diyala province, Routscunion and Callus. And by that time in Iraq, there wasn't a lot going on like that. I don't think we fired a shot in anger that entire deployment.
So it pretty much was just an entire deployment of nothing.
An entire deployment of patrolling and giving snacks to school kids and paying off locals. And we only had like one. There was an IED at one point, but it didn't even hit us. It hit somebody else. We did one raid on a V-bid factory. Good story about that one for you. So that's actually the day that me and my crew got left out in the sector.
I remember you telling me that. I remember you telling the story one time.
Yep, we got left, and I was still mad about it. But I'll go into that one since that's probably my one really, terrible story out of that whole deployment. But so yeah, there was a V-bid factory. It was a gentleman named Hamza Al Sadir. I think he was either the ace or the king of spades in Iraq at that time. He was a very high value target that was coordinating attacks on coalition with AQI. And the intel dudes had been tracking him for a long time. They knew he was actually in our sector and was coordinating from our sector, and they were monitoring cell phones and stuff. And we knew at some point we were going to launch an operation called Operation Tomahawk Snatch, and we were going to go grab him up. Like the whole company was going to rush in and grab this guy whenever we found out where he was. And that this one morning, sure enough, they came, everybody running around and knocking on the shoes and getting everybody up, and said, hey, they knew where he was. They didn't know how long he was. There was going to be a meeting down in Callus. And so everybody's running out and jumping in the vehicles and stuff. And we rolled out. We didn't even do test fires. And everybody left in such a rush that the plan for the convoy and like the chocks for the whole company leaving, it got all messed up. There was no radio checks, and so it was just a big mess.
What a surprise.
Everybody rushing to leave. Yep. And so I actually ended up in the front of the convoy, like the whole company convoy in the MGS, beelining down Route Cheyenne into Callus. And we pulled into Callus, and like all the ICVs and stuff pulled up behind us and started dropping ramps. And actually, I skipped an important piece. So Sergeant Nielsen, who was the ATGM TC, he was my battle buddy. The ATGM was the tow missile striker. Mm-hmm. We only had one MGS. We had the ATGM, and we had an ICV, the infantry carrier, that my lieutenant was in. But Nielsen, his striker, actually, the ATGM was behind me, and he caught fire or broke down or something as we were going down Cheyenne. And so he had to pull off, and my LT pulled off with him. And so I kept going with the rest of the company behind me. So yeah, we pulled into Callus. So I was like the only vehicle for my platoon there. I moved down the road and I set up my blocking position, and all the ICVs pulled up. All the infantry guys started jumping out. and raiding. There was no gunfire or anything, but this was on like a Sunday morning. And so there was the Calais is a market. So there's hundreds and hundreds of people everywhere. And I'm in the middle of the freeway, and I had a Girton pull up, and then we turned, and so we were blocking the whole road, like laterally, in the road with the gun tube pointed over the side down towards all the traffic, and I blocked the whole road. So no more cars were coming in, kind of as outer cordon. And obviously on a Sunday, there was a lot of traffic, so there was a lot of cars that started piling up very quickly. But no, so they went in, they raided it. They caught, I don't know, like a dozen guys. A lot of them were mentally disabled, like severely mentally disabled. They got 2 cars. They got a BMW and a bus that both had bomb switches on the steering columns, and then they weren't loaded with explosives yet, but they were mixing nitrates in the backyard. So yeah, it was a legit target. They didn't kill anybody. There's no gunfire or anything. It was just kind of chaotic. We caught them with their pants down. We did not get Hamza al-Sadir. He wasn't there by the time we got there. But anyway, so this whole Tomahawk Snatch mission, we were sitting there for like 7 or 8 hours. Like, it was a long time. And behind me was the first sergeant, Beletsky, and the medics. And they were doing TSE. They had taken the detainees back, but they were taking pictures of everything. And like the Iraqi police had shown up, and they were just kind of, like after operations type stuff. But there was still crowds of people everywhere. And kids kept walking up to the MGS and like trying to talk to us or ask us for stuff. And then there was like hundreds of grown men all yelling and like throwing stuff, and we were just sitting there. And I had called first sergeant, and I said, "Hey, since you guys are collapsing the inner cordon, can I pull back towards you a little bit?" Because I was probably 300 meters up the road, and there was so many people that there was starting to become crowds between where we were in the road and the inner cordon. And so Marshall was my gunner, Specialist Marshall, and Private Gurdon was my driver. And Marshall had a canister round loaded, and he was starting to get real scared, and I was worried about him doing something silly. And I remember I had actually gone in and turned the circuit breaker for the fire control off, and without him noticing it, because I was worried that he was going to canister a crowd. But I could tell that he was having a lot of anxiety, and so was Gurdon, because there was just so many people around us. But when I called First Sergeant Beletsky and I said, "Hey, can we pull back a little bit because we're a little bit far out?" And he said, "No, you need to stay exactly where you were. You were in the op order." And he gave me a rush of crap over the radio, and basically just like shut me down. And so as a young vehicle commander, it's just like, God, man, you're like, what can I do in this situation? Like, I don't want Marshall to do something dumb. I don't want to be in this situation. What the hell are you supposed to do? But some time went by. We ended up buttoning up. So we both dropped down, and we had closed hatches and locked, battle locked everything and stuff, because it had got to the point where people were coming up and like banging on the RPG cage, like the slat armor on the side of the MGS, because there was just people everywhere. And then cars kept inching forward. Like one car would move forward, and then another one would like bound a little bit further towards him, and like between us and the cars was probably like 50 meters. But all these cars were trying to come in, and I was just like, the ROE didn't allow for warning shots. So it's like, what are you supposed to do, man?
It's not
it was an impossible situation, but we just stayed there buttoned up and stuff. And I had actually remember watching second platoon on the Blue Force tracker heading north on Cheyenne back towards the Cotton. So it was us, First Sergeant, the medics, the Iraqi police, and I think 3rd Platoon was still on objective, and they were finishing up. And finally, I had promised Gerton, I was like, look, I'll ask him again. All right. And I called First Sergeant Beletsky and I said, hey, can we come back? Since I know we're collapsing, we're getting ready to head back north. Can we come back and like rendezvous with you? Because we're in a bad situation. There's people, people everywhere, and they're banging on the side of the MGS, and the cars are trying to move up. And he said, no, we need you to keep blocking traffic.
Jesus.
We can't have any cars in here right now because we still have people on the ground. And so I was like, look, I said, hey, Gerton, back up. Like, we're straighten out on the road, come back a little bit. We're going to go back up against this T-wall, and I will keep the gun tube pointed on the traffic, and I'm going to use my green laser pointer to get everybody back up. And so we did that. We probably moved back about 30 meters or so, kind of up against some like T-barriers on the side of the road. And I was actually relieved because none of the cars really moved, but it dispersed some of the crowd. So I was actually able to get up and place my laser pointer in the coax chute up above Marshall, which is up in the gun pod, and tape the little button on it so it was on. And then I just told Marshall to like start, sweeping the gun tube across the crowd, so you'd have the little laser pointer, a green laser pen on people, and that actually bought us a little bit of space. I remember while we were doing that, I heard like a faint message, like it was broken over the radio, of one of the medics saying they had cleared the checkpoint north of Calais. And I looked at the FBCB2, and their icons were still like right behind us. So I was like, that's weird. And so I was trying to call First Sergeant Beletsky, be like, hey, we're still over here. Like, are you guys still behind us? Because I thought the medics said that they cleared the checkpoint going north.
Mm-hmm.
And I just got static back. And so I was like, what the hell? So I started sitting there and like trying to do the FBCB2 messages to the medics. And I was getting nothing back. And so I was like, what in the hell? Like, there's no way they left us. Like, no way in hell, right? Like, that doesn't happen. You don't. Who does that? When does that happen? But I was like, okay, hey, Gurdon, I would like at least make visual contact with them, right? And so I had Gurdon pull out from like the T-barriers back up onto the road, and I looked back, and there was still one of 3rd Platoon strikers there. And I was like, okay, I'm not crazy. Like, the stuff's intense and whatnot. I was like, all right, Gurdon, back up over by the T-wall. And so I was sitting there trying to get a hold of the third platoon and like find their internal net and stuff, because I wasn't getting anything on company. For a while I was trying to reach them. Probably like an hour, 2 hours. I was doing the FBCB2, and the radio and like everything I could. And I was like, look, if First Sergeant's not there, we're just going to back up over by 3rd Platoon. And because at this point, the sun was starting to go down. It was
That's not
starting to get
good.
dark. No, and there was still a huge crowd. And, we're a block down from this V-bid factory. So who knows what other people, live in that neighborhood and stuff. And I told Gerton, hey, pull up. We're just going to go up and check in with 3rd Platoon, because I am not getting anybody on comms. Like, this is not a good situation. So we pulled back out, and 3rd Platoon strikers were gone. Nobody said anything to us. And I was like, my heart sunk, because the Iraqi police were still standing around, like in the same site, like smoking and stuff. And there's still people everywhere. And those people had to know that we were there by ourselves. I don't know how long we were there by ourselves, at least probably 2 hours. we had just been sitting there blocking traffic. And at that point, cars were just driving out across the open desert to get around. But sure enough, we booked it north by ourselves, probably about 15 miles north, back up to Fob Grizzly. And we pulled up to, obviously, Nielsen, and my PL never showed up. They ended up getting towed back. But I remember we pulled up to the gate, and the guys on B-Dock on gate guard were like, "Hey, what's your trip ticket? How many vehicles and stuff?" And I was just like, "One vehicle, no trip ticket, just us." We were just out, decided we'd take the damn mobile gun system on a joyride through town. And they were confused. We drove in. I told Gerton and Marshall to go fuel up the MGS, and I went and I started banging on my platoon sergeant's door because he obviously didn't go out. And he opens it up and he said, "Oh, you guys are back." Like, yeah, we're back. How long's everybody else been back? But anywho, I ended up getting threatened into staying quiet about it. And that's kind of how that ended up panning out.
That's never fun.
No, it kind of showed me that those infantry guys didn't like tankers, and I feel like it kind of really showed that day that they were willing to go that lengths to care that little about us, to let us sit out there. I always regretted that because I felt really bad about Marshall and Gerton, because they were both scared, and I let them down on that. I should have done more. I think that probably caused a pretty big lapse in trust in me from them. Just they shouldn't have been in that situation. I shouldn't have done it. I just didn't. At that time, I didn't know what to do. I wanted to keep my spot as a tank commander, but at the same time, I could have possibly put them at risk. I don't know. It was bad decisions. Hindsight's 2020.
Yeah,
and one of many regrets.
Yeah, that I learned that because when I finally got to be a tank commander, I was like, I'm just gonna full send this and see what happens. And it was surprising. The more disagreeable you become in the army, the more people like you.
This is true.
I thought it was weird. True. Hey, I'm gonna borrow your tank. Go away.
Yeah.
That brings these. So, I mean, it's early 2009 is when you went back to JBLM.
Yeah, we went back. I don't remember a lot about after we had got back. I remember that was probably the first time where like I was feeling like I was physically hurting. We walked a lot. I wasn't on the MGS all the time on that deployment, but we put in a lot of miles. We had to take photos and basically draw analog maps and look at stuff along the entire Udaim River Valley in northern Diyala province, and we had to do it dismounted, and that was like our platoon's mission. And so we were walking like ruck marching about realistically 6 to 10 miles about 3 times a week, through the terrain, going through caves and taking pictures of water crossings and talking to people and stuff. But there was a lot of legwork that second tour, and when we had got back, that was the first time where I was just like, man, my knees and my hips and my back, like everything, I'm hurting, man. I feel old. Like I'm not old. I wasn't old. I was in my mid-20s, but I was like having a hard time at PT. It was just like genuinely in pain, man. I think it was the mileage more than the age,
Yeah.
And I obviously started drinking a lot too when we had got back. So I was struggling. This all amounts to I started struggling at PT. And like the Tomahawk standard for the infantry guys, you had to get a 270 or you were on remedial PT. And so I was a sergeant at that time. So being a sergeant on remedial PT in an infantry platoon or infantry battalion is a no-go. You know, they wanted, because I didn't fail PT tests. I was getting like 250s, 240s. It wasn't terrible. But it just wasn't the standard. And so I kind of got labeled as a pariah again. I was having a hard time. Started to get worried they were going to take my rank and a bunch of other sob stories. But I said, hey, you know what? I want to go back to tanks. So I re-enlisted again to go to Korea because the agreement from branch was if I do a year in Korea, they'll send me to Benning. And at that point I decided I wanted to be a master gunner, and that was my career goal. If I couldn't be anything, I wanted to be a master gunner. And so the best way to do it, instead of trying to go from your home station, is to already be at the station where they do master gunner school. So I concocted the plan to go to Korea and then get to Benning so I could go to school. And that was my plan. So I PCS to Korea. And when I got there, they had just reorganized 1st Tank and Manchu 29 into organic battalions. So 172 Armor was getting 3 tank companies, and Manchu was getting 3 infantry companies, and we were getting brand new Step A2s right off the factory floor.
What year was this?
This would have been in 2011, 2012.
So those would have been Sep 2s.
Yep, they were brand new, man. Like crispy paint. As soon as I am processed, my battalion commander said, "You've been deployed. You have gun experience and vehicle commander experience. I want you as my gunner." Like my first day in Korea.
Fuck.
So I ended up getting picked up as being the battalion commander's gunner, which I didn't like. I wanted my own tank because that would have been my first opportunity to be my own tank commander. And so I did. I went through net training. It actually was nice because the battalion commander, I don't think he liked tanks. Honestly, I think he liked to talk about tanks more than actually tanking, because that guy didn't know the first thing about tanking. So I actually was fortunate because whenever we'd go out and do all the VIP tours, or there would be maneuver training or like proofing ranges or anything like that, I was actually able to work with all the like the battalion and the brigade and the division master gunners, and get a lot of tank commander time in that way, just because the battalion commander would be nowhere to be found. But I started to learn a lot, and I kind of took over my ethic from the MGS that I was going to learn, the SEP inside and out. And so same thing, it's in my barracks room because I was GWOT learning it in Korea, and study and learn and build training products so I could teach the new privates stuff that I knew or stuff that I had learned, and started to build up a nice catalog of things. Got a lot of maneuver training in, probably more maneuver training there than just about anywhere in Korea. And then after about 6 months, I became a tank commander in one of the companies, and shot a lot. You do a lot of gunnery in Korea. I shot a lot of gunnery. First time doing gunnery as a tank commander. And you're always short people in Korea, so you get a lot of ammo. So every gunnery might not mean you're shooting once. You could shoot 2 or 3 times in a gunnery, and then do the Calfexes and the table 12s and everything else.
Damn.
And that was awesome. It's tons of trigger time. It's so much trigger time. You have time for experimentation. So, we're gonna shoot gunnery with ox sights, or it was good. You get that creative, and actually, hey, it's about improving, not just about checking the box on gunnery. And that much trigger time, you get a lot of malfunctions, a lot of small arms malfunctions and main gun malfunctions, and trying to get the tank back out on the range, and just a constant turnover. It was awesome, man. Probably the best time ever was those times out on Rod Range.
Okay. It sounds to me like a lot of the good tanking days are way far behind us. They're in the
Yeah,
rearview
it's got
mirror.
different, man. Email and cell phones have changed a lot. I think that's kind of where the climate started changing.
Yeah.
I made it to Benning, man. So yeah, left Korea. Awesome time in Korea. Probably at the top of my career. I had a really good understanding of both the MGS and the SEP. A lot of trigger time, and I went to Benning and went to, I don't remember what it was. One of the cavalry regiment that supports schools for TRADOC. Kind of a shit job, but uh, we would get tanks from General Dynamics from DOTS and then sign them out to the schools. But we would have to basically go through and, like thoroughly PMCS and make sure that they were mission capable. And they had a lot of tanks over there on Benning. I'm sure you saw it. Did you go to Benning or Knox?
I went to Benning in 2016.
Okay, so yeah, that motor pool with all the tanks,
Mm-hmm.
where you guys do your AIT stuff,
Yeah.
or like I worked in that motor pool with all those tanks, and then the tanks across the street from Dots, and we would supply the tanks and the MGSs and stuff for both Bullock and Master Gunner School, and so I got a lot of context there at Master Gunner School, and I went to ATAC pretty quickly after I had got there. ATAC is the National Guard's like pre-training. It's like pre-ranger, but it's pre-gunner. Abrams training assessment course is probably the best 5 days any tanker can spend in their entire career, as far as professional development. But you get a 5 day crash course on Master Gunner School. And so the information is very matter of fact, very dense, very to the point, and extremely challenging. But the nice thing about it is you're not at risk of not becoming a master gunner if you don't pass. And even if you fail the exams, you can still go through all the course content. They're going to give it all to you. And the National Guard guys that were teaching ATAC were like the best of the best, just some of the most knowledgeable guys. Like they could tell you, the resistance set capacities, the resistors on different circuit boards. Like they knew that thing inside and out. And so I went through ATAC, and it was absolutely stoked, and immediately turned around and went to ALC, and then immediately turned around and went to Master Gunner School, all in like a 9-month school bender.
Hey, nothing wrong with that.
Checked all the boxes. Yeah, and then became the squadron, and then the brigade master gunner there. So you kind of run like the gunnery ranges for the basic trainee students and A Bullock and the Cav squadron, and it's a lot of gunnery stuff. I kind of got away from the PMCS side, but I was still teaching MGS because I was one of the few people that knew it, to folks. And that's actually where I met Sergeant Thomas, old Dick Houston, because he's one of the Bullock instructors. And I wanted to go to mobile gun MGS Master Gunner. I was really adamant about that. But I remember when we went, they said, "Hey, if you get this identifier, you'll never see a tank again." And that I didn't want that. So that was
Yeah.
the end of that day for me. I like the MGS, but not that much.
Whoa! Pump the brakes! Pump the brakes!
Yeah, that's a little much, man. Hold on.
I like this tank thing a little bit. So, when did you finish up with your time at Benning?
Probably, I think it was 2014, maybe early 2015. I told Branch that, hey, I'm Master Gunner. I don't want to sit in TRADOC, man. I want to train tankers for combat and stuff. And he said, well, I can give you Bliss, and I was like, sure, I'll go back to Bliss, no problem. Or I'll go to Bliss. I like Texas, so I PCS. Actually, me and old Dick Houston PCS together, and went over there and checked in with Sims, and we all got to assigned a 135 armor back to my starting place.
The irony.
Yeah, and then the fun began. I was a tank commander and second platoon with under Thomas. We're both master gunners. We had a lot of really green people. There was a lot of training to be done, but command's priorities were kind of all in the wrong place. They seemed more interested in doing NIEs and like simulated dog and pony shows than they did actually training for combat. But there was no real combat mission going on other than what was happening with ISIS.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you never know when the flag is going to go up. So I went into it trying to treat it like the flag could go up any day, and people weren't of that same mind. And at the same time, it kind of goes back where I was physically hurting and I wasn't very good at PT and drank a lot, and maybe my priorities were jacked up too. But hey, after I got out, I found out that I've been rucking around and running around on a broken tailbone and 2 broken feet for who knows how many years. I had stress fractures throughout my whole lower body, so that might have had something to do with it.
Yeah, I know what that's like. I've had a few of those.
Yeah, it's not all woe was me. We had a lot of good times. We'd
Yeah.
we'd cook out and sit out under the stars, and we did a lot of maneuver training out there too. There were some really, really awesome times. The times in the motor pool were not so awesome, but same kind of money constraints, and the uphill ice skating maintenance fight. That's any tanker's worst nightmare right now.
Yeah. And I remember when I first showed up to the unit. I was August or it was mid-August 2016. Oh, was there anything that went on that was spectacular? Were you between you getting to Bliss until I showed up?
No, we're doing were you there for the NIEs and AWA?
I did the last AWA because that last one was my first field problem, October 2016.
Yeah, so that first year at Bliss, that's all we were doing is constant AWAs and NIEs, like every other month. We would go out for like 20 days or 30 days, and they were doing some kind of sensitive testing. They told us it was like the NIEs was a network integration evaluation where they had some JLTV, or I don't know what it was. Maybe it was like a Buffalo that had some kind of electromagnetic spectrum space guy stuff on it. And I think they were listening to radio traffic and trying to figure out how to triangulate where stuff was at. But that's just my assumption. They kept having to do these harvests of data off of these electronic warfare vehicles, but they basically just wanted us to run around and do a miles game and speak over the radios and gather a bunch of data and do it over and over and over for like a month. It was really, really lame, but it was good maneuver training. Really good driver's training for the young guys, but for your loaders and gunners, there's not a lot of there. We may have shot a gunnery or two, but honestly, it was a lot of just kind of idling, spinning your wheels with not really any larger purpose.
Yeah.
I think about the time that you guys had arrived there, it was kind of looking like a mission was taking form or shape, with the ISIS fight and everything that was going on in the Middle East.
Yeah, because I remember when I got there that everyone, because this is me, this is almost 10 years ago now, and me being a brand new private, not really understanding what's going on. It seemed to me that you guys have been told so many times that we're gonna deploy this year, that no one believed it.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of that.
But I do remember the first time I met you. I was in the because I went to battalion, checked in, did all the usual stuff. Had no idea what was going on. Green as grass. No idea what the army is still. And then I think Leach came up and got us and took us to
Leech.
took us to the main office for Sergeant, CO, XO, all the shit like that. Yeah, training room. I fucking hate that place. Anyway, and I remember you walked in and you sat down right across from Leach, and there's Nesbitt, myself, Mendiola, and there's one other fucktard. And you asked, "Tell me something about the tank." And Nesbitt started saying dumb shit. Mendiola was saying dumb shit, and the other fucktard was saying stupid. And I distinctly remember saying Lycoming AGT 1500. And you perked up immediately to that. Because not many people know
it
that.
Means that you care enough to learn.
And I just do remember that you wanted me to be in your platoon, but acting first sergeant Thomas pulled me to first. Probably for that reason.
Yeah.
Then I remember going out to the first AWA and just be like, "This is awesome." While everyone's just demoralized, like, I hate my life.
Yeah. I mean, we had been doing it for so long. I ended up getting stuck with that mouth breather Loran that I really wanted to hurt that guy.
You and me both. You and me both.
Yeah. I'm still hunted. He may as well have been the turd standing behind the tank in Iraq.
Don't worry. The unit that I'm working with right now, they have a Loran, and it's
oh my god. It all started wrong because I had been fighting with maintenance and battalion for 3 or so months about getting a new DVE because my DVE was broke and it was driving me nuts that I could not get a DVE, and I had got a brand new one for that AWA, and Landfear had just taken it out of the box and put it in the driver's hole when Loran pulled it out and slammed it against the front slope and shattered it.
I think that was because I believe Loran got there after gunnery.
We were out in the field when it happened.
I believe that was it Strike Focus? Oh, because that reminds me because for Strike Focus. Now I had Stouffer. He was in your platoon at the time. Just while I was up in the training room, Stouffer had told Loran to. No, I believe it was you with the AOP sample bottle and the ballistic solution.
Yep. Yeah, and his pro mask.
So here's how I remember the story. You had taken a green chem-lite, gone underneath the breech. This is probably, I don't know, what, 10 o'clock at night in April at Bliss.
We were doing AACs.
Oh, you guys were at that time?
Yeah. Well, I was trying to shim underneath the gun mount, and Loran was up top watching me because he was handing me stuff.
You were doing the alignment block shims without a recoil kit.
Oh, you can't get everything right, man.
I
don't remember. I think I was up under there with a shim or something, or a damn feeler gauge.
Anyway, well, actually, you tell the first half, and I'll tell, because the last part of it is I don't think you got. I did because I was at the top.
I don't remember who was all there. I remember I just had an idea, because I had a chem light under there that I was using to see because I didn't have a light. I told Loran to go over to maintenance and get me an AOAP bottle because it needed to I needed to bleed the ballistic solution, and so he's a yes sergeant, and he ran over to maintenance and he came back with an AOAP bottle, and handed it to me, and I'm up underneath the gun mantle, and I cut the top of the chem light off and I poured it in to the bottle, and then put the cap back on. And said, "Hey, Loran, I need you to get some gloves on to handle this." And he had put some gloves on, and I handed it out to him. And I remember what he said something like, "What do I do with this?" or like, "What is that?" and stuff. I was like, "It needs to go back to maintenance." And so I sent him to maintenance, and then kind of sat there and chuckled. I think maybe Stouffer was there, and we were having a good chuckle about it. And that was until he showed up at the conduct of the range brief. That's about the last time I had seen him.
So how I saw it was, I saw this little, because I was at the talk and it was dark, and all I saw was this little green AOP sample bottle just go other mechanics. I'm like, what the hell is that? And then it went. And then I saw it go back a little bit faster, and then I heard Stouffer's voice, and I don't remember what he said, but he probably said, "You probably need to get a Mop 4. This stuff's radioactive." And here comes Loran to the running full speed to the talk to Sergeant Eccles, full mop, sounding like a mix between a Darth Vader and a Hoover vacuum, because it was just even worse. But because all I saw is this little green. I hear the way he breathes to the pro mask, and then I see this little AOP sample bottle getting bigger and bigger, and then he runs past me into the talk where Sergeant Eccles just dies laughing. And that's all he did, because he thought it was the most hilarious thing he'd ever seen.
Yeah, you got to bleed the ballistic solution. It's green, just like the GPS.
Which some people go like, that's hazing. Sure.
Oh, that builds character, and the stories where you're old man and you get to tell people and have a good chuckle out of it.
Oh, I've told people that story a lot of times, but just from my perspective on what I understand on it. just seeing that little AOP sample bottle just go through the desert.
Yeah, that one was clever. That was probably one of my high moments, I suppose. But yeah, good soldier though, without missing a beat, man. Just take this green chemical slime and run it around the desert in the middle of the night in Mop 4.
Good soldier, but a fucking zero.
Yeah, he's a no-go.
And then, I remember after that one, I came to your platoon finally, because First Sergeant Blake realized that I was a terrible training room guy.
Oh, Blake, I like that guy.
I liked him. I just didn't like that he pulled me up to training. You're a great people person. Even Sergeant Eccles told him that was a bad idea.
Yeah.
I think it's wild when you have Eccles telling people that's a bad idea. I mean, that's a really, really bad idea then.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it was not a good fit for you.
No, but I remember coming to your platoon. If
I remember right, I lobbied for that.
I believe.
I think I was pushing for that.
I believe you gave me 2-3 at first. And Sergeant Schiff showed up, and that I was totally lost.
Yeah, Schiff. Yeah, and I finally had my own platoon, something I always wanted. It was just I don't know, nothing seemed to go right ever, and we were always so short-handed. I remember that's my biggest memory is always being so short-handed. We never had the people. I think at one point we had like a 7-man platoon.
Yeah, somehow.
And just nobody, and tanks that were insanely broken. and there's nobody seemed to
care.
Care. You have two sides of track come in on Friday afternoon. You got 7 dudes. That includes the platoon sergeant and the PL. And why isn't it done by that night? And then you have all broken track jacks, and there's like one impact wrench that works, and you have to sort through 4 different tool bags to find sockets because nobody has sockets, and
we've broken them all already.
Yeah, everything was just so broke, and nobody cared. That it made everything we had to do, even short man, next to impossible. But somehow we were able to do it, and then more would be asked of us. And I think probably every tanker can probably reflect on that. There's that other idiom, that I can't remember how it goes. We, the demoralized and the underappreciated, have been asked to do so much for so long that now we're asked to do the impossible with nothing.
Yeah.
It kind of seems like it was, it always was. And I imagine, during like large scale combat operations, that's probably largely what it's like, honestly. I had never experienced that. I feel like everything we had downrange, you asked for it and it would show up the next day in an Amazon box. But money was different at that time. I don't know if it makes you more or less prepared for combat, but I know it makes people more jaded and less. They like their job less, and it kind of goes what we talked about earlier. Quality of life is a payment in itself. If you give people the right tools for the right jobs, they're going to enjoy it more.
Yeah.
So I mean, everybody was kind of mutually miserable in that situation. I hope it's changed. They're going to have a hard time keeping good people having it like that.
It got worse. It got way worse.
That's not good.
Yeah, we'll get to that one later. Because that was the training cycle for 2022, and that was it. Ooh, that one was rough. But anyway, so your time came to an end in 135. I do remember. Was it right before we did NTC? We had, because I came to platoon for Iron Focus, where we got attacked by some Bradleys. I think this was May. We got attacked by some Bradleys up on the hill because we were near Range 83. And I remember, was it Sergeant Garcia? He got quote unquote killed, and they called up over the net for the 9 line. Line 1, Garcia.
Yeah, I remember that.
And there goes the first sergeant telling the 113, "Hey, I know where to go," and drives in the opposite direction of the Blue 4.
Man, I forgot all about that.
And I remember we were sitting there not doing anything because I had 2-2, I think. Because you and Segura had climbed on it, and we're sitting there for God knows how long, and after we get attacked, but our miles was dead. So we couldn't do anything. And then once they recover, and we caught a bush on fire, or a chia pet on fire finally, after sitting in front of it for like 4 hours.
Yep.
And then we were told to go with the 113 to escort it to the roll 1 or roll 2, one of them. And on their way there, in like the middle of the night, the tank broke down. Like they went into, what I know now, the tank went into protective mode because the DECU took a shit. We didn't know that back then. But then I can't remember who came in the middle of the night. They took you away, and you came back with the 88 in the morning because you actually punched in the grid on your Garmin. Unlike how a lot of people don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, nothing worse than somebody that can't navigate. So I always had a Garmin, even when I wasn't supposed to have one. But
yeah, it's just like they told
yeah,
us to not have a Garmin NTC, and everyone still had one.
Yep.
And I believe, was it? I went out there with Stouffer and Diggs and Stansel to shoot sustainment gunnery. I think off of 2-1, maybe.
Yeah. 2-1 was pretty much our best tank we had in that platoon.
Like, I know if I was able to take back with what I know now, I probably could keep that whole platoon up.
Yeah, same. Well, I don't know. We didn't control the money.
Yeah, but like with the unit here, I've been able to rebuild the entire like manual traverse assembly, like rip the whole thing apart and figure out what's wrong with it, fix it, and put it all back together. And like
that's fantastic, man.
I've gotten really good at like making junk work.
Yeah, oh, that's awesome. I mean, that's what you got to do. But I mean, shoot, it's too bad you got to do that. But it's really good experience for you. You know, people like you are extremely valuable to the force right now.
But I'm not in the
Remember, that
army
stuff doesn't
anymore.
belong to you. You got to give it back. I know.
Yeah,
But you're still working with them.
There's nothing like it.
And for all we know, them boys are gonna be dodging drones here before long, and I can't imagine that world.
Yeah. But so your time at 135 came to an end, and what was it? Middle of our deployment to the Middle East.
Let's see. No, I got sidelined by the battalion commander and um sergeant major out at NTC, who for whatever reason didn't like me, but they liked their golden boy.
Mm.
And decided to take my platoon from me and make me the battalion master gunner, even though I didn't want to. And I told him that I would because I was already on orders to PCS. I told him I would delay my PCS to go with the unit to get him through Army Day and gunnery in Kuwait before I left. And so that's what I did. I deployed as the battalion master gunner and did the live fires, and then I left and went to Irwin to be an armor trainer, OCT.
Hmm.
And yeah, that was awesome. That was the best job in the Army. I enjoyed that a lot. The NTC, for whatever reason, is like the one place, at least from like an OC perspective, that the Army got it right. Like everybody that I worked with at NTC, from the commanders through the platoon trainers, were absolutely the best people in their field. Whether you're talking about the medics or the aviators or the mortars or the scouts, the tankers, the infantry, everybody was absolutely fantastic and really good at their job and really high performing. I was very humbled to get a chance to work with them, like to count them amongst my peers. And so it kind of went from a really low point back to a really high point. And it's almost like, cocaine addiction, like that. You get really high and then you hit a really bad low and then it gets high again. And the Army is always like that, real highs and real lows.
Yeah.
But my time at Irwin was absolutely a high. And I ended up getting in the best shape of my life just because it was such good work-life balance. You do 2 days in the field and then 2 days back. And those 2 days back, you're not having formations or doing Army dog and pony show. It's more or less you handle your business and you go home. So I was able to get like an hour in at the pool every day and hit the gym for an hour every day and run and hike and do so much more stuff that wasn't, ruck marching or like tearing down my body, where I was actually able to get in really good shape. And I enjoyed my work out in the desert a lot. Just you spend a lot of time alone, or a lot of times training people or doing op orders or working with people to make them better. Not, or, the common stigma that they're out there policing people. That wasn't really my approach. My approach was to try and make people learn something. Even if it's not about their own job, about other roles within the warfighting functions, or different ways of giving op orders that doesn't sound like the worst thing ever. Like actually practical orders that make sense to people and being creative about it. It was fantastic. It went at NTC. Once people realize that they're not there to train, they're there to train their higher echelons. It kind of takes the stress off of them. You can do other things, or understand how things are integrated, or like, how would this not have gone this way? Well, because you need to use obscuration. Obscuration is king in maneuver warfare in a lot of ways, but it's something that you don't really replicate at home station training, or is often an afterthought, but people don't even think of it. But I mean, you're moving over open terrain, you're on an assault. What are you going to have? Covering fires and obscuration. But it just doesn't happen that way. But kind of seeing all those things come together was like a real eye opener. Like, this is how we're failing to train at home station, is because all these other tactical enablers, we don't even consider it. We just think, a platoon breach, or our battle drills, it's just us, and we don't think to include other people or how we would even do that.
Yeah,
but
I
being
think.
an OC and kind of seeing it all is like a big light bulb moment for me.
Yeah. So that was your time as an OC. If I recall, that means you went warrant right after that.
I did. So Branch had come down and wanted to talk to all the OC master gunners about Project Warrior, and I think it was about Project Warrior and the Master Gunner pilot program for bringing maneuver guys into the ordnance branch as part of a way of bolstering numbers for ordnance branch. Really, what it comes down to is when they wanted to take master gunners and let them become 913 ordnance warrant officers, like weapons warrant officers. Uh, the reason for this is because the normal career progression for weapons warrant officers is they come up as a 91 Fox, which is a small arms repair, like the guys that do your services in the arms room.
That never get the 50 cals right. Still to this day.
Exactly. Yes. So there's a lot of background to that. 91 Foxes are very, very, very horribly managed by the Army. To put it in very simple terms, most 91 Foxes were not competitive for a lot of other jobs. So you're not getting your best and brightest. So to fast forward, when you look at the warrant officer cohort, when it comes time to try and get people to become weapons warrant officers, you don't have a really good barrel of fish to pick from. And the standards for becoming a warrant officer are very, very, very competitive. I mean, you need a 915 GT score. I mean, it's not that high for a lot of guys coming in as. Most of us had like a 110. You needed a 915. Or what the hell am I saying? 115. You need like over 120 in some of your line scores. I don't even remember what all of it is. For us, we had to have like more letters of endorsement from field grades and senior warrants than a normal warrant officer candidate would be, because we didn't come from a feeder MOS. So I needed like one or two letters from a CW4 higher 3 letters from a field grade, 2 letters from previous commanders, like all kinds of stuff. Like the bar was really high. But to back it up, yeah, the 913s were hurting. There's only 67 of them in the Army, and they couldn't fill those 67 out of the entire force.
Wow.
So they came down and said, "Hey, we need master gunners to do it." And I went home and I talked to my wife, and I was like, my next stop is I'm going to be a first sergeant, and I'm not going to be on tanks anyways, and I'm going to be dealing with the stupid shit that happens at battalion and staff meetings and dealing with soldiers' problems. I wouldn't have to do any of that shit, and I would be able to work with tanks and other weapon systems and work with soldiers and not have anybody below me and get paid more. Maybe I should cast my die.
Yeah.
Like when you break it down like that, like how dumb would you not to even try? So I set out. I had to go to BSEP to get my scores up because I had a 110 GT and none of my scores were high enough. I was like, well, I got to go to BSEP to see if I can even do it. And I went through that and I brought all my scores up a great deal and checked that box. I was like, oh, well, damn, maybe I can actually do it. I had no idea where to find any warrant officers. So that was a whole nother adventure that anybody trying to become a warrant officer, like, where the hell do you find a CW4?
You don't.
you know? But no, I found some warrant officers and they kind of fed me up through the food chain and put me down for a couple lunch sessions with Chief Exum, who's a CW5. And we hit it off. He's an old automotive warrant for tanks, and so we knew a lot of the same stuff, and we were able to talk fire control. And he was blown away at how much I knew about the RWS and the Crows, and that I could read, that I knew all the terms on the cannon plugs, the different wiring harnesses, and we had a lot of good conversations and stuff. And he's like, "All right, I'll put my name out there for you." The OC teams are all real close there at Irwin, so I had no problem getting letters of recommendation from 2 lieutenant colonels that I worked with that both knew me really well. It just kind of all fell in line, man. If I had been anywhere else, I don't think it would have been possible. But just being that proximity to very high-ranking people that all knew me really well. Yeah, I applied and I got first-round draft, first select, top of my list, and I went to walks. Still, funny story about that one is it was, oh shoot, this is in 2020. All right, so we're fast forwarding a bit. By the time it was time for me to go to walks, which is Warrant Officer Candidate School down at Fort Rucker, I early 2020, I think it would have been March. Everybody, what happened in March of 2020. So it was a
the weird virus of unnamed origin.
yeah, it was a Friday night in March of 2020, and it was probably around midnight, and I was piss drunk on my computer at home, surfing around the internet, and I was set to fly to Alabama from California on Monday for walks. And so as I'm sitting there scrolling through the computer, holding one eye, a thing pops up that says DoD travel ban in effect at midnight on Saturday. So like I don't know, Alaract or something came out and they were saying like all flights, all movement, everything's suspended for COVID-19 pandemic. So I freaked out. Oh, shit, I gotta go. I gotta get to Alabama, and I have 24 hours to get to Alabama. So I called my sergeant major at midnight, pissed drunk, and I was like, "Hey, if I can get to Vegas and fly out before the travel ban, because like my TDY orders and like everything else says, you're flying on Monday and stuff. I was like, hey, if I can get to Alabama and already be there,
I'll have the school.
Yeah, then I can get into school because I've been waiting. It took me almost a year to get to walks after I had been selected. So my sergeant major was awesome. He was like, you know what, just go. We'll figure it out. I'll cover for you. And so there was two other warrant officer candidates at Irwin that I had been talking to. One was CID and the other was a 420, like a HR, that were going in the same class with me. And I had texted them and I was like, hey, I got a flight at 7 a.m. Down to Fort Rucker out of Vegas if you want to come with me. And they're both like, no, we're going to wait for Monday and see what our command says because nobody really knows what's going on. I was like, whatever, man, it's fine. So yeah, my wife took me up to the airport in Vegas, and I flew down to Fort Rucker. Not on TDY or anything. I paid it all out of pocket, and I got there. And sure enough, Monday, when I got there, I went and checked in. They're like, "Oh, okay, it's cool. They give you a barracks room. It's just like going to like ALC or any other military school and stuff." But yeah, Monday everything shut down. Like the every those two people from Irwin that were supposed to go to school with me, both of their orders got completely canceled and they got dropped from walks list. So they had to reapply and everything. Like they completely cleared the list off, and they said we're canceling all walks classes until further notice. However, mine was going to be the last class. So normally a walks class is around 100 people across all the MOSs. My walks class had 29. Of that 29, 20 of them were aviators that were already there because they were there for flight school. So they had to go to walks and then flight school. So there was just 9 of us that were techs. And we had an extremely small class size. A lot of stuff we weren't able to do because of COVID. But it's funny because I basically had to go AWOL, but my chain of command covered for me to get there and get it done.
Hey, yeah, so I did
that. And, yeah. Yep. Well, so yeah, I went through walks, got a pin W1. They gave me orders to 10th Mountain down at Fort Polk, which I was furious about. Said, why would you not send me to an armor brigade? You sent me to light infantry at Polk. Well, what a slap in the face.
Back with those filthy dirt people.
Back with the dirt people. But I had a great time there. I learned how jacked up the Army treats the weapons maintainers. And I was able to kind of, across the entire brigade, I was able to kind of treat them as like my own little platoon, supporting the entire brigade. I was actually able to pull them in, reel them in, and give them classes on how to adjust headspace and timing on the fixed headspace and timing 50 cal. Teach them how to use TMs, help them do all their paperwork, how to do 5988s. Actually give them a little bit of mentorship because most, you have 2 specialists and they have rarely do they have an NCO and nobody to teach them. So what they carry on with them through their career is mostly what they learn in AIT, and nobody learns shit in AIT. So that's why they're all fucked up.
Yeah, because
kind of be able to reel them in and give them that mentorship and actually like train and work with people as a warrant officer is awesome. And then going into an arms room full of a bunch of junior enlisted infantry guys as a warrant officer and be like, hey, let me see your weapons. And actually go through it with them and be like, what's wrong with it? And fix it. It was awesome. It was a great experience, to kind of show up and be the hero, and then go up to like the brigade meetings and listen to everybody complain about all their broke stuff to the brigade commander and all the battalion commanders tap dancing and being like, look, I'll fix it. I'll go down there on Friday night and I'll fix it. And you go into an arms room and fix weapons for them. So they go do their squad live fires, whatever, and then you get showered in coins. And there was a lot of big wins doing it. It wasn't exactly what I loved, but it was a good gig. Being able to actually fix stuff instead of complain about stuff being broke. The nice thing about being a warrant officer is whenever you would speak, people would listen. If I had that same kind of rap as a master gunner, I might have actually been able to get stuff done. But being an enlisted guy as a master gunner, it's just like, oh, that's just sergeant whatever. Let the officers make the decisions.
Oh no,
But as a
it's
warrant officer,
how did these guys in Bravo describe it as? Oh no, it's Sergeant First Class so and so on his fucking warpath again, saying dumb shit.
yep. See, and as a warrant officer, it doesn't matter what rank. Through generals, even as a W1, they will stop what they're doing and listen to you. It was totally weird for me coming from the enlisted side, where you're talking to a 2-star and he's actually listening to you and not like criticizing or like dismissing you, and actually asking you questions like, how can we fix this? Like that has never happened in my entire career. You might
And
get asked, what do you think?
but they don't give
But
a
not
fuck what
them
you
saying,
think.
what should we do?
I dealt with that a few times. So what do you think about this? Because it was right before we went to NTC in 2022. Like they brought in all the tank commanders. Yes. So what do you think of this? I just went, sir. I know damn well you ain't going to listen to a single thing we say.
Yeah.
Just be a dick to them.
Yeah, it blew me away, man. Just the way people treat you. And
Yeah.
it's not like you're doing anything differently. Just the such a weird paradigm. People were going to actually listen and support you because of the damn little shape on your chest. Had nothing to do with what I knew. I was the exact same dude. It just
Yeah.
blows my mind, man.
That's what I deal with now, and it's pretty surprising. Just a few years ago, I was just a dumbass E5 that officers told go away, and now where I'm at, where I'm telling officers I would highly advise not to do that, and they go, I'm probably not going to do that then.
Yep. It's I mean, you get it. It's so weird because you're the same dude.
Same
You
dude,
know?
just be able to fix a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, no, my time I got sidelined down there at Polk too, so that another warrant officer that was a real turd, like a real piece of work. He said his job is to drink coffee. Like that's what he told soldiers. He showed up out of the blue. He was a 913. He had been to Korea, or no, he had been to Kuwait, and got a hap to go to Polk because it was near his family. So he showed up, and since he showed up, there's only one slot at Fort Polk for a weapons warrant. So Branch came down and said, "Hey, we got to send you somewhere else." And I was perfectly happy there. So I was mad. But I had 3 years there, so I can't complain too much. But there was only one opening for another 913 in the Army, and that was with the 82nd Airborne Division
Ew.
here at Fort Bragg. And I was like, hell no. But I didn't have a choice, so I had to PCS to Fort Bragg to go to 82nd. More dirt people. The only shining light is the M10s here, the Bookers. So I gotta actually partially be the architect through the fielding of that for the M10s here on Fort Bragg. Um,
Ah. Yes. The M10 Booker. There's a lot
yeah,
of things people have said.
they're all probably true. They
And it's from operator side and the guys that I've been able to have chats with that have actually built the damn things.
you probably know more about it than I, because I started to separate myself from that because it was a mess waiting to happen.
Oh, yeah, 100%. There's a lot of things on there that should not have been done that were done. But we're not, that's, even though the M10 Booker is no longer a thing, it's still based on the V3. So I'm not going to go too far into it. Certain things should not be released out. I'm sure you can understand.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. So since they sent me to the 82nd, I said, you know what, I'm at 20 years. I'm already making more money than I would have as a first sergeant. I'm going to punch the time card and, call it a day. And that's pretty much my career in a 2.5 hour nutshell.
Yeah.
But no, I did 9 duty stations. I got a good experience of all of it.
I only did 7 years at one, and man, Jesus, the roller coaster that 135 was my entire time there.
Yeah, you got cheated. 135. I don't blame Fort Bliss. Fort Bliss is a great base for mounted units. 135, the whole brigade, all First Armored Division is just a big fuck up. And I will say that after having done in 28 rotations at NTC and seen most of the National Guard and active units in the Army, that First Armored Division is something wrong with it. I don't know what it is.
Well, when I finally went to NTC in 2022 as a TC, I did at least do something right because I was able to work it with mechanics and the chain of command to where I was somehow like the approving authority on a tank, which I know makes no sense. But considering I cheated my way into a TC spot by shooting as a jump crew, a gunnery, and then lying to the leadership about me re-enlist or extending so I can go to Master Gunner School, but I also have to be a tank commander as well. And like I just straight up just cheated. And then left. Because I was like, I'm done. But I did manage to put 350 kilometers on my tank during NTC.
Wow. You put some mileage on that.
And the only reason
they got any turbo shaft left over there? Or?
Oh yeah. Was it the only reason why it was only 350 and not more was it fried the cable coming off the QDP going to the starter. It didn't fry the QDP, it didn't fry the starter. It fried the connection point between the cable and the cannon plug. And it also fried the HPDU. So I was down for 3 days. And I was pissed the whole time because I was like, I don't want this tank to be down any longer because I know people are going to start ripping parts off of it. And The second they got an HPDU, I paid off a mechanic with dip and money to make sure that HPDU was going in my tank.
Well played.
I'm all about cheating.
Well played.
And then when it came for live fire, it was. I understood what you said. Like, there's nothing like being a tank commander, because we expended more main gun rounds than anyone else. Like the gun tube was so hot, you could actually see the mirage coming off of it.
Nice.
The thing was like 60 main gun rounds in a row without a single hiccup. Because I figured out all the little tricks on that breach. There's a lot of little things you got to do to make it work. I guess since we're talking about tanks now, so your first one was the M1A1 Heavy Common. How good a tank do you think that was?
Of all the tanks I've been on, that was the most reliable.
Even better than the AIM?
Yeah, I liked it better than the AIM.
But did it not have that stupid, sidecar ED bullshit system in it?
The AIM did.
Yeah, okay, that's why. I fucking hate those sidecars.
Yeah, it never worked. Or it caught on fire. There were some other like small things. I think there were some updates to the gunner's control and display panel and the DID. I don't remember. It was a long time ago, man. But I just remember it didn't work as well as our A1s. Like in Iraq, my first tour, when it came to maintenance, the only thing that we really had to do maintenance on regularly was the track. But like nothing else was breaking. You know, like the driver's periscope worked solid. The GCDP, like the gunner's panel worked solid. Everything was just didn't break. You know, it's like your car at home that you drive. It's just reliable.
Versus what we
Worked
got
like
now.
it's supposed to. Yep. You know, and your faults were all by little lights that were next to the circuit breaker panel, and it was pretty easy to trace the wires to find out what the fault was. So, I mean, usually it was a faulty cant sensor, and that's too easy to replace. So it was insanely easy.
And
we spent more time training.
That's probably the right answer, because the V2s are just, they can't stay up.
Nope, they cannot.
Even with us trying our hardest, we can't keep them up.
No, because you fix one thing and then 10 minutes later something else is wrong. And it's a constant whirlpool. I do not envy you, man. That's a really hard one to take on. But until they get serious about addressing the engineering challenges, I don't think it's going to get better.
Well, the V3 is meant to be better-ish.
And how do you feel about that?
No. There's
nice word choice, meant.
Okay, so it's because I have to be very careful on how I phrase it. The regular V3, because there's two different V3s out. There's the V3 and the V3 Alpha. The Alpha has the improved turret motor, different loader's display unit, and has a different one other change I can't recall off the top of my head. It's been like 3 years since I've touched the V3. But the regular V3 with the azimuth servo and the LDU that it has is great. Like I view the V3 as an upgrade from the V2. The V3 Alpha, fuck no, that thing's a gigantic pile of shit that belongs in a trash can. Like the V2, if we could actually have the time to go after it, make the V2 like really dialed in, I think V2s could run all the other tanks in the ground, including your old A1s. But anyway, back to the V3. The only problem I have with the V3 is its battery management and monitoring system. And it's, if you ever have the chance to look at the battery box of the V3, because I know you've seen it for the A1 and the SEP2. And in the SEP2, it's slightly complicated, but the V3, you open up the door for the battery box. Like the first time I saw it, I went, I don't ever want to fucking touch this. There's a million cables in the battery box. And I just went... Oh. And then what's even more intelligent, because the battery monitoring and management system is from the Bradley. Great. Get something from the dirt people. What a great idea. The main control box is not even water resistant. And they stabbed that motherfucker right next to the bilge pump.
Oh, that makes sense.
And when that control box gets even just a little bit of moisture in it, the whole tank freaks out.
Oh my god! And that sucks, man. Hopefully they get it right before these boys get out there in front of the tracers.
Well, the thing is, on the V3s, you can pull that battery control box out of the tank and toss it to the side, and everything works just fine.
Huh. That's wild.
Yeah. The V3, and the reason why I say like the V3, I do believe it is an upgrade. Like if you take out that battery management system, it is. Because you know how on the V2, when when the FCEU dies, you got to pull out that 75-pound hunk of metal and hand it up to somebody. Versus on the V3, it's just cards. Like the same cards that would be in an FCEU, you can actually remove them without having to take that whole giant thing out of the fucking tank.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. And they reduced the gyros from 4 down to 3.
Interesting.
Still same. Say again.
Oh, I was going to say I would have liked to have been a fly on the wall during that engineering discussion.
I have some things I can send you. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, that's interesting.
They're quite perplexing on how things were thought out. But I will have to say, I think the best M1 is ironically the FEP, the Marine Corps tank.
Yeah, like I've always liked Marine tankers. We're a really good breed.
They were better.
They were kind of more. What's that?
They were better.
Yeah, they're kind of along the lines of what I was talking about earlier, like more better team players.
Yeah. But the reason why I say the FEP is better than any of the other tanks, even though it has that stupid sidecar ED system inside of it, is its SCWS is also acts like the CITV.
Interesting.
And the screen that it has for the SCWS has 3 different options. It has your daylight channel for the SCWS, the thermal channel for it, and it also has the GPS, the BIOC.
Huh.
And the BIOC has degrees and your grid readout in it.
Oh, that's handy.
There's one other nice thing that they have. Because on A1s to where you have the jeweler's screwdrivers to null out emergency drift.
Yeah.
On the FEPs, it's just a little knob on the back of the Cadillacs. That's all it is.
Huh.
So you click it up. You click it up in emergency, and you grab palms and you go, okay, there's azimuth, there's elevation, we're good. Then clicking down into normal and square it all away. Like, why didn't they do this before?
I never understood that, and it's the same thing with the MBDs. Why they wanted to make things so complicated.
I had to use the string method.
Hey, that's tried and true, man. Wars were fought with that.
Yeah. I honestly think the string method is better. Yes, the TM says that the MBD is better. I disagree with it.
Yeah.
And
well, I think if you have a high enough quality or serviceable enough MBD and you get it dialed in and you only use that MBD on that tank, maybe it's a little bit faster and more consistent than using string method.
Faster? But no, I disagree. Because I can bore side a tank in less than 10 minutes to be on the safe side. That includes setting up the string on the end of the gun tube. 10 minutes, and we're back down the road.
Well, I mean, either way, I got no issues with string method, man. I've always been a fan with it. Like I was telling you about out there on Rod Range in Korea, we were able to test those theories about who could shoot more accurate between MBD or string method. And honestly, we weren't able to grade any differences. They're both really good, but neither produces a more accurate gun.
Which would make sense.
Than the other.
Well,
but hey, my kiddos are giving me the look, man. I gotta take off.
I understand. I appreciate your time, and if you want to share more stories, let me know, and we'll do that. I really do appreciate this. Thank you very much.
Just let me know.
That's too easy.
All right, man.
Thank you, sir. Signing off.